Pinocchio
versus So I don't usually do public movie reviews because I don't really want to sound like I'm spreading negativity by critiquing something, but the original Pinocchio Disney animation is a film that is near and dear to my heart. And I had some thoughts about the live-action remake versus the original animation that I thought were worth sharing. I encourage you to watch both the animated and live-action films before watching this video, as I don't want anything I say to influence your enjoyment of either film. I also mean no disrespect at all to anyone involved with the creation of the live-action film, as I know many hours of hard work were involved in making it happen. Getting right to it, I think there is one major difference between the two films that greatly affects the live-action one throughout almost the entire story. And that is the character of Pinocchio himself, which is interesting because he is one of the few things that is almost identical in visual appearance to the original film. In the animated film, Pinocchio is sort of an unintelligent but still lovable character who is ignorant of right and wrong, and is somewhat quick to trust the wrong thing and do the wrong thing. In the live-action film, Pinocchio seems a bit more intelligent, is still lovable, and is basically ignorant of right and wrong, but is much more reluctant than his animated predecessor to trust the wrong thing and do the wrong thing. So, how does this change affect the entirety of the film? Well, for me it affects the emotional impact in certain plot points throughout the film, as well as the resolution of the film. And so I will be examining 3 plot points in the film, and then the resolution. Plot point number 1! Pinocchio working for Stromboli! Even though Pinocchio, through lying to Jiminy, admits that he didn't want to go to school and that he enjoyed being an actor, he is still very reluctant and wary throughout this whole plot point. When Pinocchio first meets Honest John, he is accepting of what the crafty Honest John tells him about joining Stromboli's puppet show, but only because he tells Pinocchio it will make his father proud. But then later, in a re-meeting, Pinocchio seems a bit more reluctant to listen to Honest John's advice, because of Jiminy's advice to be wary of Honest John. This is fairly different than in the animation, where although Pinocchio pauses, he is much more quick and happy to listen and join Stromboli for no particular reason other than the prospect of fame, and is even quick to follow Honest John after listening to Jiminy's advice. After this, in the live-action version, we get much less interaction between Pinocchio and Stromboli, and in the first real interaction we get, Pinocchio already looks like he doesn't trust Stromboli before he gets thrown into a cage. In the animation, Pinocchio is very trusting of Stromboli, and even has a misplaced gratitude to Stromboli. And then while Pinocchio is laughing and having a grand old time, Stromboli throws him into a cage. For me, the idea of trusting someone and then being suddenly betrayed by that someone and then realizing your mistake is much more terrifying and impactful than being thrown into a cage by someone you never really trusted or wanted to be around anyway. Again, I think this lack of emotional impact in the live-action version is a result of changing Pinocchio's overall character, as with the next plot point. Plot point number 2! Pinocchio going to Pleasure Island. In the animation, Pinocchio is a bit more reluctant than before about listening to Honest John, but still seems a lot more happy about going to Pleasure Island.
Being bad's a lot of fun, ain't it?
In the live action, Pinocchio is very reluctant.
But I don't trust you.
He makes the mistake of giving into peer pressure because he doesn't want to ruin anyone else's fun, but you can tell he doesn't really want to go. While in Pleasure Island, Pinocchio, although a bit excited, is pretty consistently uncomfortable and in disagreement with what's going on around him.
It just didn't feel right.
Again, in contrast to
Being bad's a lot of fun.
in the animation, after having all this fun and trusting his bad influence of a friend, Lampwick,
He's my best friend.
Pinocchio realizes in absolute horror his mistake when he and his friend turn into a donkey. And as with the Stromboli plot point, the feeling of impactfulness of sudden horror and realizing his mistake, that feeling is taken away in the live-action version by making Pinocchio less trusting of the wrong thing to begin with. It's kind of like, well, I guess he should have seen that coming if he didn't trust them? Rather than, wow, he did the wrong thing, and his punishment is being a donkey forever. How terrifying. Plot point number 3! Pinocchio becoming the hero! Spoiler alert, so in both the animated and live-action version, thanks to Pinocchio's cleverness and desire to save his father Gepetto, Pinocchio, saves his father Gepetto. There's really not much difference as far as plot points go, but because of what we discussed previously, for me it felt different. In the animated version, Pinocchio redeemed himself of all the bad he had done by being sorry and becoming the hero, while in the live-action version, Pinocchio didn't really do that much wrong, as directly anyway, and for me it didn't really feel like he redeemed himself by becoming a hero, because he kind of already was a hero at heart, by being a generally good boy. There's less of an emotional transition for me. Now, leading right up to the end of the movie, the resolution, where the roles between Pinocchio and Gepetto are reversed, which I actually thought was good in the live-action version. I think that the scene with Pinocchio crying over Gepetto would have also felt much more impactful if Pinocchio had gone through a much more personal journey of realizing that he should have just followed his father's wishes all along and not done the wrong thing, his wrong actions having led his father to this state. I don't really feel as sorry for Pinocchio as I could feel, because again, Pinocchio himself doesn't have as much to be sorry for in terms of the things that happened before this scene. This is because it was more like Pinocchio went through all his wrongdoing adventures by pure happenstance, rather than by his own will. So much happenstance that he was literally just randomly caught in a net to be taken to Pleasure Island, rather than being coaxed into it. In essence, the original Pinocchio animation is very much like the story of the prodigal son in the Bible. The story of a son doing wrong, being sorry, and returning in repentance to his father. But by changing the character of Pinocchio in the live-action film to where he acts like a good little boy throughout the film, who just finds himself in bad situations, the entire meaning is changed. So if the meaning has been changed in the live-action version, then what is the meaning? There are a couple of meanings, I think. But the moral that I believe the writers decided to go with at the very end is,
there isn't a single thing I would change about you.
So the moral of the story is basically the same as this.
There's no one I'd rather be than me.
The moral is that we should love ourselves and love people for who they are, which is a good sentiment to an extent. We should not be fake, and everyone is special and unique, and we should love everyone. But that doesn't mean we can't improve ourselves as people, or learn a lesson about the consequences of our actions. People do in fact make mistakes, and we can learn to do better from them. And we also have to remember that Pinocchio is supposed to be like a little child, and as innocent as small children are, they too will almost certainly make mistakes that they can learn from, and that will hopefully help them to grow. Because of this change to the live-action story's moral, perhaps the writers felt that they couldn't rightfully emphasize Pinocchio's classic transformation at the end of the live-action film, since he is told that he is perfect the way he is. As a result, I feel there isn't as much reward and celebration for the viewers, or for Pinocchio at the end of the live-action of him turning into a real boy for proving himself to be noble and good. Yes, his father lives, and really that is good enough, but I know of other viewers who have said they wanted more from the ending than the very subtle transformation of Pinocchio turning into a real boy. Very different from the transformation and celebration at the end of the animation. Hey, that rhymes. Maybe you liked the change to Pinocchio's character, because of course we don't want a main character or any human to willingly do bad things. I mean, not every movie has the main character going down a path of following the dark side as a means to create a more emotional movie. But as far as the story of Pinocchio is concerned, this change to Pinocchio himself removes a lot of depth for me, changing the heart and soul of the original film. Now, personally, I don't think these changes are necessarily a bad thing, and my overall review of the live-action Pinocchio is that it is good overall. But if I have to pick which one is better, then I pick the original. Not just for nostalgia purposes, but for its excellent and very polished storytelling, humor, and deeper moral meaning. Now, there are several other nitpicky things that I really liked and didn't care too much for in the live-action movie, but like I said at the beginning, I don't want to sound too complainy, you know? Thank you for watching and listening. Should I make more of these? I don't know. Maybe if I feel like it. But I hope you enjoyed, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe for all manner of nonsensical videos on this channel.
And always remember, folks,
when you have to say goodbye, make sure that you hit subscribe. If you do, you'll get some pie and ice cream.